the reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
Margaret, when we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
Just trying to gauge for people planning ahead.
That's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant responding to CBS host Margaret Brennan, who some say was spreading fear about the economy. Welcome to the news. I'm Bob Barr. It seems Margaret Brennan tried to challenge Scott Bessant in an interview, but it didn't go as planned. Instead of making a strong point, she ended up looking unprepared. Bessant, who has a long career in investing, stayed calm and reminded her what real economic leadership is about, while she tried to push a more negative narrative.
Where are you anticipating price increases?
Well, thus far, we wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. The inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right.
We've
But
seen,
you listen to earnings calls just like we do. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
Retailers are warning of price hikes.
Well,
So when you go back to school shopping, things are going to cost more.
But Margaret, some are and some aren't. Home Depot and Amazon said they're not. And
Home Depot and Amazon aren't where you go for your back to school shopping. When you buy your jeans, when you buy your crayons, when you buy all those things that parents are going to be
I don't know about you, but I do it online at Amazon. You know, this isn't an advertisement for Amazon. And guess where most of the Halloween costumes in America get bought? At Home Depot. So that's just not right. There's a wide aperture here. Different companies are doing different things. They are making decisions based on their customers, what they think they're able to pass along to their customers, what they want to do to keep their customers. And I was in the investment business for 35 years, Margaret, and I will tell you, earnings calls, they have to give the worst case scenario. Because if they haven't and something bad happens, then they'll be sued.
It's not always the worst case. It's the most probable case.
No, they have to give the worst case.
If you're going to challenge someone like Bessant, you need more than a political opinion piece and a few quick Google facts. Margaret Brennan tried to pressure him on topics like inflation and tariffs, but Bessant stayed calm and pointed out that she had made similar negative predictions in the past, and they turned out to be wrong. He's right. Inflation is now at its lowest in 4 years. Personal incomes are rising, and the PC index has slowed down. Once again, the mainstream media's scary economic forecast didn't come true. It seems like some people would rather stick with bad data than admit that Trump's policies might be working. Meanwhile, Brennan kept pushing back with a confident attitude, but Bessant continued to calmly refute all her points.
How close of a brush with default could this be, given how massive some of the Senate changes are expected to be to the other parts of the bill?
Well, first of all, Margaret, I will say the United States of America is never going to default. That is never going to happen. That we are on the warning track and we will never hit the wall.
You have more wiggle room if they don't deliver this by mid-July? I mean, how hard of a date is this?
That we don't give out the X date because we use that to move the bill forward.
Sometimes deadlines help force action, as you know, particularly in this town, sir. That's why I'm asking. You know that the Speaker of the House estimates this is going to add $4 to $5 trillion over the next 10 years, and there's that debt limit increase.
Well, again, Margaret, that's CBO scoring.
That's the Speaker of the House.
No.
He said it last Sunday on this program.
He said that's the CBO scoring.
He said that sounds right.
Let me tell you what's not included in there, what can't be scored. So we're taking in substantial tariff income right now. So their estimates that could be another $2 trillion. Mm-hmm. That we are pushing through savings. So my estimate is that could be up to another 100 billion a year. So over the 10-year window, that could be $1 trillion. President has a prescription drug plan with the pharmaceutical companies that could substantially push down costs for prescription drugs, and that could be another $1 trillion. So there's the 4.
One thing about Brennan is that she's very easy to read. It was obvious she was trying to sound confident and superior to cover up not really knowing the details. It didn't work. She brought up a dramatic situation about Trump's bill failing and the U.S. hitting the debt ceiling by July. But Bessant quickly shut that down. Instead of backing down, Brennan quoted Jamie Dimon, like his word was final, and repeated the same points from the Peterson Institute. Points that had been wrong over and over. She ignored the actual data. The CPI is at 2.3%, GDP is growing, and the 10-year Treasury rate is around 4.2%, which doesn't suggest any kind of crisis. With this kind of reporting, it's easy to see why more people are starting to question the narratives coming from Democrats and mainstream media.
That you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
This is new CNN polling.
Yes.
How is that, when we look for trends, how is that trending with other data that you're pulling in?
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan.
Also in the CNN data, it does show that Republicans are gaining ground in an area that is key relating to all of this, which is when it comes to the middle class.
Yeah. You know, historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class, has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989, when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022, where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away.
You know things aren't going well for the Democrats when even CNN has trouble spinning the numbers. This wasn't some random poll. It was CNN's own data showing that Republicans have a 12-point lead when it comes to who the public trusts more on the economy. That's gotta hurt, especially for reporters who spent months warning about a recession, shaky markets, and Trump's tariffs. But the problems don't stop there. Democrats are also losing support from the middle class, a group that used to be their core base. Since 1989, support from that group has dropped by 23 points. The party that once claimed to speak for working people is now being outpaced by President Trump and the GOP. What do you think? Is the media's loss of credibility and constant fear-based reporting actually helping Trump more than hurting him? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us out. Thanks for watching. This has been